If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Over 70% of those account holders want to loan you money on your real estate deals. They love real estate, but they want to be passive. They don't want to go find deals, negotiate deals, oversee rehab projects. They just want to be a private lender and sit back and watch their account grow. But there's one big caveat to existing private lenders. You're not going to put on your teacher hat and teach an existing private lender what private money is and what your opportunity is. They already know. They're already an existing private lender. So now that's a negotiation conversation, and I'd rather be a teacher than a negotiator.
Welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast, the #1 source for proven solutions to all your marketing challenges.
Captain Marco here, and today's guest is about to drop some treasure maps for real estate riches. Joining me in the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast today is none other than Jay Conner, known far and wide as the Private Money Authority. Since 2003, Jay's been buying and selling homes in a small town with only 40,000 people. Yet he's flipped over 500 deals. He's been involved in over $118 million in real estate transactions, and now averages a whopping $82,000 in profit per deal. But here's the kicker. When the bank slammed the door on him in 2009, Jay didn't panic. He didn't quit. He pivoted and raised over $2.1 million in private money and raised in private money in less than 90 days without asking for a single loan the traditional way. He's now on a new mission to teach everyday investors like you how to attract money like a magnet without begging the banks or using your own credit. He's trained thousands of people, investors one-on-one, as well as being a national speaker, a two-time best-selling author, and has even automated his business today to run in under 10 hours of his time a week. So talk about freedom. If you've ever dreamed of flipping homes, funding deals, or scaling your wealth, this episode's for you. So stick around. Jay's also going to be offering access to a free copy of his book, and we'll tell you more about that later in the show. Jay Conner, say hello.
Captain Marco, my lands, what an intro. Thank you so much for inviting me to come along and talk about my most favorite subject that I'm so passionate about, that being private money. And why is that? Because private money, having access to private money for funding my real estate deals ever since 2009 has had more of an impact on our real estate investing business than any other strategy at all.
Wow. So I look forward to hearing that. I am a real estate investor myself. I love to buy real estate. I've done a lot of flips in my time. My stepson is a huge, very successful real estate flipper with having done several hundred transactions himself. So really looking forward to this conversation, Jay. But before we dig in, one of the things I want to compliment you on when we were chatting before I hit the record button is I love your voice. I love your tonality. I love your delivery. You remind me of one of my heroes and mentors, Mr. Ziglar. So tell us, Jay, and then you mentioned that you met him several times. Let's go back there first, and then I want to hear some more of your story on how you got where you are, the expert that you are today, Jay. So tell us about your Zig Ziglar background.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Marco. Yes, way back when I was 24 years old, actually 23 years old, I moved to Texas, and I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and the company I was working for at the time, at 23 years old, I was in sales, and they required me to listen and answer questions of every Zig Ziglar cassette tape training that he had. Boy, we just dated ourselves there on cassette tapes. And
Yeah,
so
I used to do those too. I had bought every cassette tape, every book he had.
yeah, and so I listened to Zig all the time. I had his phrases memorized. And so coincidentally, my definition of coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. So coincidentally, while I was in training in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, one of my fellow trainees told me that they'd seen an ad in the newspaper. That's back when people read newspapers. Had an ad in the newspaper advertising free tickets to Zig Ziglar's. He was going to be on a television show early in the morning at 7 a.m. and it was live. And the name of the TV show was DAWN, D-A-W-N. It stood for Dynamic Achievers Worldwide Network. And so Zig Ziglar was going to be the guest speaker, and they needed a studio audience, free tickets. I said, man, I've been listening to Zig Ziglar every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. I got to go to this. So it was a small studio audience, and afterwards he hung around, and I got to shake hands with him and visit with him a little bit. He was so personable. So that's when I met him for the first time. And then 2 more times, he was on a very, very large speaker network called Get Motivated and the Linux training. I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, and so got to meet him in Raleigh, North Carolina, a couple of times more. And the last time I saw him, he had already had his stroke and had fallen down the steps. So his daughter was traveling with him. And Zig would stand, he was sitting on a stool, but he was still doing all of his arm motions that he had choreographed with his talk. But his daughter was sort of triggering him along and interviewing him and, you know, reminding him of his stories. But yes, Zig Ziglar was my hero. I can still, as I'm thinking about him, I still think of you know, so many of his lines that he had in his recordings. But anyway, yeah, Zig, one of my favorite people.
For all of you young folks out there, if you haven't read his books and his tapes and his training, still relevant today. If you're in sales, which every one of you are, if you're in business, if you're in sales, you got to go back to basics, back to blocking and tackling. Make sure your team knows how to sell, and go look up the Zig Ziglar series of books and training. You can't go wrong by going back to Zig Ziglar. So moving forward, Jay, tell us about how you got into real estate investing, and, you know, we're doing the volume you were doing, and suddenly 2009 hit and you had to pivot. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Sure. Well, my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we started investing in single family houses here in Eastern North Carolina all the way back in 2003. So we've been doing this for many, many years. And we're in a small market, only 40,000 people, but we do 2 to 3 deals a month, averaging over $80,000 per transaction. I don't say that to brag at all. I say that to make a point. And that is, there's an argument to be made and a case to be made to dominate a small market. I'd much rather be a big fish in a very, very small pond than like investing in the large cities and I'm competing with all the other real estate investors. Well, from 2003 to 2009, January of 2009 to be exact, the only thing I knew, Marco, to get my deals funded, my real estate deals funded, was either go to the local bank or go to the mortgage company and get on my hands and knees and say, please fund my deal, you know, and the banker would make me pull up my skirt and I had to show all my personal assets and my financial statements and credit scores pulled. Well, that's all I knew to do. That's the traditional way to borrow money to get funding. And that worked out okay for the first 6 years. But then in January of 2009, everything changed. Everything changed. I called him my banker. His name was Steve. And Steve and I had done a ton of deals, ton of business those first 6 years. So I called up Steve. I had 2 houses under contract to purchase, Marco. And I learned like that over the telephone that my line of credit had been closed at the bank with no notice to me whatsoever. And I said to my banker, Steve, I said, Steve, what in the world are you telling me? You're shutting down my line of credit. I said, I got a great credit score. I've always been on time with my payments for 6 years. Why are you or the bank closing my line of credit? And Steve said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my deals. He says, sorry, Jay, not loaning money out to real estate investors. Well, I hung up the phone, Marco. I sat here at this very desk for a moment, and I thought for a second. I want to share with you and your audience a very powerful question that I asked myself that changed the total trajectory of my business. And here's the question I asked myself. This question will help fix any problem anybody's got. And by the way, these people running around saying, oh, every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. Let's face the facts, right? So here's the question I asked myself. I said, Jay, who do you know? You know, it's not how, it's who. I said, who do you know, Jay, that can help you with your problem of losing your funding? I immediately thought of a good friend. His name is Jeff Blankenship. We're dear friends. We know each other from a cappella singing events at gospel singings. And he was investing in single family houses in Greensboro, North Carolina in January 2009. So I called up Jeff thinking my buddy could help me. And I called up Jeff. I told him what had just happened with the banker cutting me off. He said, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, well, I'm not sure I want to be a member of that club, but what club are you talking about? He said, that's the club of having the bank shut you down. He said, my bank shut me down last week. I said, well, how are you going to fund your deals, Jeff? He said, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. He says, have you ever heard of self-directed IRAs and how people, individual people, regular, ordinary people like you and me can use retirement funds that they have to loan money out to us, and the interest we pay them is either tax deferred or tax free. I said, Jeff, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. I said, what's private money? He said, well, there's this gentleman down in Jacksonville, Florida, by the name of Ron LeGrand. And he says, Ron knows about private money. I said, well, what's private money? Jeff says, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it really, really fast. So I went to Ron LeGrand's training. I went there to learn about private money, and I did. I'm not talking hard money. Hard money is not private money. Private money is when you're doing business with individuals to fund your deals. I learned about private money. I came back home, Marco, and I put on my teacher hat. I put on my teacher hat, which says private money teacher. And I put my program together that I was going to start sharing with people in my own connections as to what private money is and how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely. And so I just started sharing my opportunity with how people could be a private lender. I taught them the interest rate that I'd pay and how they're protected and all that kind of good stuff. And without asking anybody for money and being a teacher, I was able to raise $2,150,000 in new funding that I didn't have in less than 90 days. And so here's the deal, Marco. Because of that problem, that opportunity, because of that problem, our business tripled in that first 12 months when the banks weren't loaning money. You remember all those foreclosures were going on? Well, think about it.
Yep.
You had all those foreclosures going on, and the banks were not loaning money. So you had to have the cash. So now I got all this private money lined up. I was able to pick and choose the foreclosures we wanted to do. Our business tripled. And ever since that time, I've never missed out on a deal for not having the funding ready to go.
Wow. Now that's different than, as I'm preparing for our interview, I'm assuming you're talking about hard money loans, which are relatively easy to come by, if you've got some, especially if you've got some history in doing and flipping homes. So what is private money then? I mean, you described it briefly there, but how do you access it? Is
Sure.
there something you have to do that training you're talking about yourself, or is it now sort of accessible to to real estate investors?
Right. Yeah. So, see, a lot of real estate investors, particularly if they've been doing real estate investing for a little while, they confuse private money with hard money, and that's not their fault. You got a lot of hard money lenders that call themselves private money, lenders. Well, so here's the difference. And by the way, I'm not poo-pooing hard money lenders. Some of my best friends are hard money lenders. But hard money lending is an institution. It's institutional money. Hard money lenders go out and raise private money. They raise investor money for individuals to invest in their hard money lending fund, right? So then the hard money lender, the broker, turns around and loans that money out to us real estate investors. And so they charge a higher interest rate typically than the interest rate that they're paying their investors. And then they charge points or origination fees, extension fees, etc. Well, this world of private money is the 180-degree different, 180-degree change in direction. You see, the traditional way to borrow money is the lender makes the rules. That's the traditional way. The old saying is, he or she who has the cash makes the rules. But guess what? Not in my world, not in my thousands of members that are now doing this business the way I do. So what we do is we are our own underwriter. We make the rules. We set the terms. So what I did first is I put my opportunity, what I was going to teach and offer to ordinary people, individuals in my own network is how I started out, this opportunity. So I decided I'm going to pay them 8%. I'm going to pay them a straight 8%, no points, no origination fees, and I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them with in North Carolina, it's a deed of trust. Most states call it a mortgage. So that collateralizes the promissory note. So I'm not going to borrow any unsecured money. And everything I'm going to do is going to be asset-backed debt. Asset-backed debt. So I'm not going to raise money for a fund, right? I got a single-family house, and then maybe one or two or three private lenders that are funding that particular property. Each of them have their own promissory note, their own deed of trust, collateralizing the note. And I'm going to name them, part of my program, I'm going to name them on the insurance policy as the mortgagee. So that way, if there's a claim, then the check's made payable to them and to my company. They got to sign off on that check. I'm going to name them on the on the title policy as well as an additional insured. And I'm not going to borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. I didn't say 75% of purchase price, 75% of the after repaired value. And that gives them a nice equity cushion, but it allows me to bring home a big check. I always bring home a big check when I buy without taking any of my own money to the closing table. Who wants to get paid to buy properties, right? So I put the program together that I would teach and expose to people. And then I want to share with you, Marco, and your audience right now, how do I get my deals funded without ever asking for money? I never pitch a deal. And people say, Jay, how do you I got $8.5 million that I use from project to project to project to projects, single family houses. How do I get my deals funded without ever asking for money? Here's the exact script. Here's the script. I call it the good news phone call. And the best way to illustrate this, Marco, is to do a short, quick, little hypothetical scenario. Let's pretend, Marco, that you and I have known each other for some time. We're friends. Let's pretend we go to church together. So the trust factor is already there. We go to church together. We know each other. Let's also hypothetically assume that I've taught you this opportunity. I've taught you the private lending opportunity to be a private lender. And and you like it. You like the program. You like the 8% because all you're going to get at the local bank is less than 3% now in a 7-month CD. So you like it. You like how you're protected. And let's also hypothetically assume, Marco, that you had a $150,000 retirement account in a 401k at a previous employer. And I've taught you the program, and I've introduced you to a self-directed IRA company that I recommend, and you have moved that $150,000 with no tax effect over to the self-directed IRA company. So now you can be a private lender with your retirement funds. So that's the setup. So now I call you up with the good news phone call. Here's the script. I call you up, you answer the phone, we have a little chit chat, and then here's exactly what I say. I say, Marco, I've got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract in Newport with an after repaired value of $200,000. Now the funding required for the deal is $150,000, which matches up to what you have in your retirement account at the self-directed IRA company. Now closing is going to be next Thursday. I'll need for you to wire your funds from your retirement account directly to my real estate attorney's trust account, and I'm going to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation. The most stupid thing I could do is ask Marco, does he want to fund the deal? Of course he wants to fund the deal for 3 big reasons. Marco wants to fund my deal for reason number 1, he trusted me to move his money. He moved his money from the 401k over to the self-directed IRA company that I introduced him to. The second reason Marco wants to fund my deal is because he knows I'm not going to bring a deal for him to fund that doesn't match the criteria of the program I already taught him. Did you hear the numbers? I told Marco it's got an after repaired value of $200,000. I told him the funding requires $150,000. That's 75% of the after repaired value. So he knows I'm not going to bring a deal for him to fund that doesn't match the criteria of what I've already taught him. And the third reason Marco wants to fund my deal is because he's not making any money until I put his money to work. So I'm ethically obligated to get Marco's money invested and loaned out to my company as soon as possible, so he starts making money.
Love it. And folks, we've got a bunch of more questions to ask of Jay Conner and how he does this and how you can learn to do this too. But we'll be right back. We're going to hear from our main sponsor. Don't go away.
It's time to wow, surprise, and impress your clients with the most powerful customer draw card available anywhere. The Marketing Boost Solutions Show is brought to you by Marketing Boost, where you can get valuable travel and restaurant incentives to drive your leads from prospects to paying customers. Now you can offer complimentary hotel stays in over 130 destinations worldwide. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com and try it for free right now.
You just heard from marketingboost.com. And what's that all about? If you're a business owner and you're looking for ways to wow, surprise, and delight your clients, you got to check out marketingboost.com. We're the most affordable way that you can provide amazing, high-value travel incentives, complimentary hotel stays, restaurant savings vouchers, hotel savings cards, from everything to help people show up for your Zoom calls, reward them for being on time for your webinar, prizes that you give away at a trade show, millions of ways to use the Marketing Boost incentives. Join our Facebook with over 33,000 entrepreneurs so you can learn from others how incentives can help you generate more leads and close more sales. We're back with Jay Conner here, and we're talking about how you can become or how you can help generate funds for your own real estate transactions. Let me go ahead and share my screen and talk about your book for a moment, and tell us how we can get the book free over here. I'm on the website now. I think it is, let me see if I find that here, jconner.com/book. We're going to have the links down below in the show notes, so don't worry about jotting that down. The links are in the show notes. Discover how you can get unlimited private money for your real estate deals. And you can get his book here for what, $6.95 shipping? Is that correct?
That's it. So the book's $20 at Amazon. Don't spend your money over there. But the name of the book is Where to Get the Money Now. Subtitle, How and Where to Get All the Money You'd Want for Your Real Estate Deals Without Ever Relying on Institutional Money, Banks, or Hard Money Lenders. And this is not an ebook. I'll actually autograph the book for you and mail it to you. Express mail is you can get the book for free. Just cover shipping. And I'm also going to include with the book 2 tickets valued at $2,997 to my private money conference, in-person live event. Just had my most recent one last week. Not another live event like that where you learn from me personally for 3 days all about raising private money without ever asking for money.
Wow, that's a totally different strategy than I've ever heard. So where is your 2-day event going to be?
Yeah, the next 3-day, actually, the next 3-day live event is going to be right here in my hometown of Atlantic Beach, Morehead City, North Carolina. We're right here on the beach. We have the event oceanfront. And the next dates are October 8th, 9th, and 10th here in 2025. October 8th, 9th, and 10th. And I'll even give you the website that you can register for free with just a small actual registration fee, but the value is almost $3,000. That's www.theprivatemoneyconference.com, www.theprivatemoneyconference.com. Also, my book, I didn't give out the website there, Marco. You can get the book at jayconner.com/book, JAYCONNER.com/book, jayconner.com/book. I'm an ER, not an OR. And in addition to that, I'm now in my 8th year of my show, my podcast, which is called Raising Private Money. I have 2 shows a week. We're now in almost our 800th episode. And I'm always interviewing other real estate investors as to how they raise private money, how they go about it. So wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can just search for Raising Private Money with Jay Conner, and I'll pop right up.
Cool. So thank you for all that. And again, folks, in the show notes below, you can find quick access to those links and come and start following Jay, get his book, and join his next live event. But back to, while I've still got a little more time with you, where do you, outside of the learning how to find the private money, which is like a whole brand new business in itself, right? You're going to learn from you, from your book, from your techniques, from your live events, from your podcasts, where to find and develop this strategy of teaching others that have retirement savings money to put it in a place that they can access it and invest it. And then they're earning the 8% and so on. But when it comes to the what almost to me sounds simpler, like, again, I've been a flipper, I've been a home flipper. Really, when it comes to what kind of deals do you invest in, what do you teach there? What kind of property should people invest in? You talk about doing it in a small town, 40,000 residents, yet you've done, hundreds of deals. What kind of properties do you look for?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Marco, because you can use private money for any kind of real estate, right? Particularly if you're going to secure the note. And so you can use private money for single family houses like I do. You can use private money for self-storage projects. You can use private money for apartments. You can use private money for land, right? But the larger projects, you're not going to do what I call one-offs. You're going to be raising money for a fund for, say, apartments, self-storage facilities, and that type of thing. With what I do single-family houses. I've bought and rehabbed and sold over 500 of these houses now since we started in our small area here. And the thing about it is, what I mean by asset-backed debt, I'm not raising money for a fund. You've got a single family house, and then you have a private lender, or maybe 1, 2, or 3, depending on how big the project is, that are funding that particular property. They each have their own promissory note. They each have their own deed of trust that's collateralizing the note. And so as a result, the SEC does not regulate what we do. So that's a very popular question. Where does the SEC come into this? The Security Exchange Commission. The SEC is going to regulate you raising money if you're raising money for a fund. And if you're borrowing unsecured debt, the SEC does not like that at all. So You're raising money for a fund, then you're going to be regulated. You would hire a security attorney to draw up what's called a PPM, which stands for a private placement memorandum. But in my world of single family houses, if you're listening to this show and you're interested in investing in single family houses, whether you want to flip or you want to buy and hold, there's no hurry to pay back private money. Did you know right now I'm paying my private lenders less interest? I'm paying them 8%. The local bank right here down the street 2 weeks ago is charging more than 8% in commercial rates right now. So there's no hurry. If you want to buy and hold and not be a flipper, you can use private money for that. And so that's what I love about it. I got 20 reasons I love private money. I'm not going to give all 20, but the big ones are, number one, as I mentioned, you make the rules. You are your own underwriter. Guess what? You, as the borrower using private money, you're already approved. You're already approved, right? There's no application to fill out. Instead of asking for a mortgage, you're offering a mortgage.
You're offering the mortgage. Now, let me ask you this. This kind of throws me for a loop here. Okay, so I found the private investors. I've got people. I've learned from you how to line them up, how to have them move their money so they have access to loan it, to buy, for the investor to be owning the paper, owning the mortgage, owning the loan. So now I use his money to buy a property that I intend to flip. So it takes me 6 months to do all of the permits and get all the constructions done and so on and so forth. The house flips within 6 or 7 months. Would I pay off that loan completely and I have to look for a new loan, a new investment for that particular owner, or how does that work? What do you typically do there?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Marco. So you're going to do one of two things. First of all, you cannot keep the money. You cannot keep the money because it's secured by that deed of trust. So you got two options. You're either going to pay it off and then go find another deal and put their money right back to work, because I can tell you, the private lenders do not want their money back. They do not want their money back because when they get their money back, they're not making money. And that's why they loaned it to you, right, on the deal. So they don't want their money back. So you're either going to pay it off and put their money back to work right away on another deal, or you can do what I do a lot of times, which is called substitute the collateral. So what do I mean by substituting the collateral? Well, a substitution of collateral is a loan modification. So here's what happens. You have the initial note, say, let's do easy figures, of $100,000. You got an initial note of $100,000. And that $100,000 was secured by property A. Well, now you're selling property A down the road, 6 months down the road, 9 months down the road. Sometimes I use the money for a year if it's a large rehab project. I mean, I've got contractors, I got my own crews, and it might take 90 days before they actually start working on that property. So we go to sell it. And so now I got to either pay off the lender or I'm going to substitute the property. So that $100,000 note is secured by property A. Well, now property A gets sold. So now a substitution of collateral is exactly what it sounds like. I'm now going to substitute property A with property B. So property B could be a property that I'm buying within a 7-day window, because my real estate attorney is not going to keep money in her trust account if it's not attached or designated for a particular transaction or closing. So property B has got to be identified within 7 days as either a purchase, or I could have another property that's got equity in it that maybe I haven't started the rehab on yet, or maybe I just want to refinance. Private money is not just for purchases. Private money can be for refinancing and pulling equity out. So I will substitute the property if I have a property available. I'll substitute the property, the collateral, and keep that note for the private lender open to where they're not missing out on making any interest payments.
Can you turn it into a for sale by owner, so to speak, and let the new buyer buying the flip take on that mortgage and continue paying the investor? Or is that not something that's typically done?
That is a possibility, but I would not do it. That's called buying a property subject to the existing note. That's on the HUD settlement statement, line 203 and 204. I buy a lot of properties subject to the existing note, but I'm not going to sell a property subject to the existing note and rely on the buyer to pay my private lenders on time, because
Right.
my relationship with my private lenders are sacred relationship. I got 47 private lenders right now, Marco, 47 private lenders that are loaning money to us on our deals. And you know what's interesting? Not one of my 47 private lenders ever heard of private money, private lending. Some of them, until I put on my teacher hat, they never heard of it until I exposed them to this world. And so they use investment capital, just liquid money in their checking account that they might have had in a CD, and or they use retirement funds. But yeah, none of them heard about it until I exposed it to them. And I love private money for so many reasons. There's no limit to the number of private lenders you can have. There's no limit to the amount of private money that you can use and that you can borrow. You can borrow across state lines because we're not regulated by the SEC. I mean, we're not regulated by the Commissioner of Banks. This is a one-on-one transaction between you and your private lender with no middle person, no originator, no broker involved.
So how do you go about finding these people that are willing to become your private lenders?
It's like, where are these people, right? Well, there's three categories of where these people are. By the way, if you have an abundance mindset, you know there's millions and millions and millions of dollars all around you all the time, right? You just have to uncover it. Here's the three categories. Category number one is what I call your warm market. It's your own network. It's people that you already got on your cell phone. You go to church with them. You play golf with them. They're in the Rotary Club. You know, ask yourself, where do you go every week and see the same people, right? So your warm market. Well, sooner or later, if you want to scale your business, you're going to run out of your own warm market. You're going to run out of that. So where's the second category of private lenders? I call that your expanded warm market. How can you grow your network overnight like that to establish more relationships with people? Well, I teach that in depth in my book. For those of you that are ordering my book, How to Grow Your Network, I teach it at the live event as well. But I'll tell you one big, awesome way to do it like that, and that is join BNI, which stands for Business Networking International, founded by Ivan Meisner. Even little old Morehead City, North Carolina, where I live, we started a BNI years ago. And that's a great organization, networking organization. And then the third category of where you find private lenders are what I call existing private lenders. These are individuals, ordinary people like you and me, that are already private lenders. They're already loaning money out to other real estate investors. Well, the question is, where in the world do you find them people? Well, the quickest and easiest way to find them is just use my software, which is called the Private Lender Data Feed. We get every private lender closing in the nation contact information every month. There's over 12,000 closings a month in the nation of individuals that are loaning money out on real estate investing. But you don't have access to my private lender data feed. What do? Well, I'll tell you where private lenders are. You may find this interesting. Self-directed IRA companies, they are companies that are approved by the IRS. They're called third-party custodians. And so those account holders that have accounts at self-directed IRA companies, over 70% of those account holders want to loan you money on your real estate deals. They love real estate, but they want to be passive. They don't want to go find deals, negotiate deals, oversee rehab projects. They just want to be a private lender and sit back and watch their account grow. Well, self-directed IRA companies have networking events where they'll bring people together that are account holders and real estate investors that are looking for money. But there's one big caveat to existing private lenders. You're not going to put on your teacher hat and teach an existing private lender what private money is and what your opportunity is. They already know. They're already an existing private lender. So now that's a negotiation conversation. And I'd rather be a teacher than a negotiator.
Yeah, that way you write the rules versus them telling you what they want. And then what the rules are.
Exactly.
Now, I know what hard money is. I don't know that every one of our listeners know or not, because they may or may not be in this real estate world. But you've always thought you'd love to be a flipper. That old house would be great to take it and refurbish it, sell it, make a profit. Hard money. Tell us the difference. How to one degree it can be. It sounds to me that it can be easier to get hard money out of the gate, compared to building your own network of private lenders. But tell us the biggest benefit in the comparison between hard money and private money loans.
Yeah, well, with hard money, here's the big differences. Number one, their interest rates are going to be a lot higher. Your average interest rate now with hard money lenders is between 12% and 15%. That's a big difference with the 8%. Another big difference is hard money lenders charge origination fees or points, which is a percentage of the loan amount. That right now averages between 2% and 4%. Another big difference are extension fees and length of the note. So the length of the note is typically going to be 6 months or 9 months with a hard money lender. With private lenders, all my notes are between 2 and 5 years, depending on where they're getting the money from. 2 years for liquid capital, 5 years for retirement funds. And then another huge difference is what's called the advance. Well, what in the world is the advance? The advance is how much is the lender going to advance to you or loan to you and fund to you when you purchase. Well, a hard money lender is only going to advance to you between 65 and 80% of the purchase price, regardless of how good the deal is. You got to come up with the other 35% or 20% as a down payment. That's a big difference with this world of private money. With private money, you get 100% of the purchase price if renovation is involved. By the way, private money is not only for renovated projects. It's for when the seller requires all the cash. So you're going to get 100% of purchase if renovation is required. You can get 100% of renovation, and you're going to be able to pull out more equity. Well, the only reason that works is you're buying the property at a discount. You're buying the property at a discount, and here's a check and balance. If you can't bring home a big check when you buy the property and you're using private money, you're paying too much for the property. Let me repeat that. If you can't bring home a check without taking any money to the closing table when you purchase, and you're using private money, you're paying too much for the property.
That's part of the science on learning how to do this properly. So click the links, get the book, sign up for the 3-day event, guys. The links are down in the show notes below. I'm going to take a minute, guys, and tell you about a business we are excited about launching here any day now. We've been making a lot of edits. We've had a few people on beta seeing some great results, but we are launching something that's a game changer for online reputation and generating reviews, testimonials for your business. Marketing Boost was born on the idea of needing video testimonials for one of our other travel websites. And we grew that to over 30,000 video testimonials. And now we're teaching business owners how to do the same with trustbyreviews.com. Trustbyreviews.com. We help you manage your online reputation, solicit a constant flow of new reviews and testimonials. Every business today, you need reviews and testimonials and video reviews if you expect to be generating, having the social proof you need to generate new business on an ongoing basis. And you need constant new testimonials and reviews. So check out trustmyreviews.com. Again, another amazing platform that Marketing Boost and us, and we are launching to our community. You're going to love it, and it's going to provide you with a constant flow of new reviews and testimonials. And matter of fact, we teach you how to use our incentives with it to reward clients for going the extra mile of giving you a video review or publishing their honest opinion on multiple third-party review sites like Google, Trustpilot, SiteJabber, Shopper Approved, Facebook, etc. So when your client goes the extra mile of telling their story in multiple places, you can reward them with Marketing Boost incentives. So we show you how to use those incentives to help grow and improve your online reputation. We're back here with Jay Conner, and wow, the subject of private money, funding your own real estate deals, and making money for others in the process. It's a really powerful subject here. What would you say is the biggest drawback in doing this scenario in the real estate business, either for the client that's funding the money or for someone like you?
Well, the biggest drawback is when you do it the way I do it, you're going to have a problem. And the problem is you're going to have more money than you know what to do with. You see, there's more money available than there's deals. In fact, in this market today, it's more challenging to find the motivated sellers. I use 7 different pay per lead Google vendors that are feeding me and my acquisitionist and my team daily leads of motivated sellers. And so regardless, you're going to have more money than you know what to do. So the challenge is keeping your private lenders happy by keeping their money invested. And so how do I do that? Well, a couple of ways. Number one, when I have a new private lender come on board with new private money, they go to the top of the queue. Whatever my next deal is, I'm using their money next, because I want to prove to them that I can deliver and I can perform and I can put their money to work. Because you see, private money is like bananas in the grocery store. Unless you consume it rather quickly, it will disappear and go rotten on you. Ask me how I know that. So I want to put them to the top of the queue, put their money to work. And then if I've got a private lender that has been sitting on the sidelines and I've paid them off for 90 days, I have been known to take their money and pay off a current private lender on a property and refinance the property so I can get their money back to use, so that money doesn't go and disappear. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to use that money and keep them happy.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like a big problem to have. I've got to figure out how to buy another property, flip it, sell it, and so on. You know, I'm going to have to get my stepson watching this show, and we'll come up and see if we can join your operation.
Absolutely. I'd love to mail him my book and get you all to my live event.
Yeah, I'm back on your page. So folks, again, in the show notes below, you can find the link to jconner.com/book. Tell us about this again, how we get it, what we get in the call to action you had earlier.
Sure. So the website to get my book, I'll autograph it for you. I'll ship it to you 3-day express through the United States Postal Service, which, by the way, is still open and doing business. So I'll ship you this book. I'm going to include 2 tickets to my upcoming live event, which is called the Private Money Conference. And this book will teach you exactly how to raise private money without ever having to ask for money. It has in the book my exact opportunity and program that I teach to private lenders. I got a whole chapter in here on how to have successful private lender luncheons and events. I've raised $969,000 at one 90-minute luncheon that I've put on without having any deals attached to it. So it's all about putting you in the driver's seat, putting you in control to where the money is chasing you and you're not chasing the money. In this world of private money, there's no begging, no selling, no chasing, no persuading. It's all about attracting the money and not chasing the money.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for that. Folks, if you've liked the content we've brought you, first, Jay, thank you so much for this kind of mind-blowing strategy that most of us have never heard of, me included. So it's been an education for me to learn about this strategy of really only heard of either bank loans or hard money loans. So this strategy is powerful. Can't wait to learn more about it. So folks, if you like the content we brought you, one, give us some comments below on what you thought of the show, what you thought of the information. Order Jay's book and share this episode with somebody, please. So give us a like, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned to the Jay. Any last comments from you, or words of wisdom for people out there looking to succeed in the real estate business?
Well, nothing's going to change in your life unless you change and take a little action. So if you want to be in control of your funding and your money for real estate deals, take action, order the book, and you'll be glad you did.
Man, the voice of Zig Ziglar himself.
Hey, now that's a big compliment right there, I assure you.
I tell you, you must have studied those tapes and learned his tonality and the whole thing. I love it.
I love
it. It's like you were like Zig was still with me right now in person. Well, Jay, thanks again, folks. If you like the content, one more time, give us a like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast with your hosts, Captain Marco Torres. Now it's on you. Take the next step now. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on how you can wow, delight, and surprise your clients with the most amazing draw card on the planet. So stay thirsty, my friends. Stay thirsty for knowledge. See you next time.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.